Hello, everybody. How's it going? Oh, hold up. Stop that. Stop it. Momo, you too. Stop headbutting my arm. I need to start the stream. Oh, let me turn your camera on. There you go. That'll make you happy. Hey, everybody. Well, ooh, I wasn't doing that before. Hold up. Let's trim the camera. Give me a second. There we go. Welcome on back to the stream, everybody. How's it going? Happy Saturday. Hope y'all are doing well. Hope everyone is having a good week. Hope my Final Fantasy 14 fam out there didn't stay up too late. The European Fan Fest is going on right now. I was up super late watching the opening ceremonies for all that. So yeah. Welcome on back, y'all. Happy Saturday. It is Ace Attorney Saturday. We're here. Momo's here. We've got a cat. I think I've got a cat tail. We have a camera. I haven't used the camera since last week when it was screwing up really bad. I haven't quite figured out if it was a hardware or software issue, so I'm going back to the old camera program. So we originally were using XSplit for our camera program. And yeah, that's what I've been using for the longest time. And then XSplit was being kind of funky, but I couldn't tell if it was because of the camera. I don't know. Actually, first we started off with XSplit with this cam, the cat cam. Then we got a new cam. Still used XSplit for that. That would crash sometimes. Weird. At one point it was really bad, so we switched to the actual camera software, the Elgato software. But as you all saw last week, that went to shit too, so I don't know if it's a hardware thing, a software thing, I don't know. I have no idea. I do like the way the picture looks a bit better on the Elgato software, but if it's gonna screw up like that, that's too much of a hassle. So we're back to XSplit now. Hopefully it's stable. At the very least, XSplit is a bit easier to refresh because I could just go in the XSplit program and hit the refresh button. Whereas when we're trying to refresh Elgato directly, I have to like change the source and then switch it back, and then that's how you refresh it. I don't know. If it keeps happening regardless of which program we're using, then we know it's a hardware issue, and then I have to get a new webcam. That would suck. Although, conveniently, Black Friday coming up real soon. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll just get a new one and just not freaking deal with this shit, because, like, it drives me nuts. But anyway. Enough about that. Sorry. Hold on. The thing with staying up, like, way too late is, like... it stresses out your body when you're older. Alright. Okie dokie! So, anyway, enough about that. We're here for Ace Attorney. We started... last week thinking, I thought, naively, I admit, I thought we would finish the case last week, but alas, the trial was a two-parter. So, here we are. The return of the great departed soul, which I assume is the professor, the criminal, the mass murdering criminal from, like, I don't know, was it like a decade ago, who killed Van Zeke's brother, died. And is probably Odie Asmund, the current victim of the case in the present time, who is now actually dead. Shenanigans. That's my assumption here. But we'll see. We have to. We just interrogated, kind of, sort of, the engineer behind the scientific equipment, who is also an expert in stage magic. Ooh. That's hence the science and stage magic. They're very intricately linked here. And now we need to grill the coroner. Courtney Sith is her current name. I forgot her maiden name, but she did the autopsy report on the professor way back when too. So, some kind of connection going on. We don't know what yet. Alright. She's been called into court, and we shall get to the bottom of this. She's very suspicious, though, and scary. This tea is very hot. I should have took a Sudafed in advance for my nose, because it's a little stuffy. Oopsies. Alright. Momo, can you calm down so I can please read? Calm down. Calm yourself down. Calm yourself. Everything is fine. I trust me, Momo. He just wants to sit on his pillow. Okay. All right. 24th October, 11:53 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. The knight errant himself. Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Sholmes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs, as a spectator at least. I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself. Let me just scooch myself over just a smidgen. There we go. I have a favor to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's this professor business about? He doesn't look like any professor I've ever met before. Who even is he? Oh, you know nothing about the professor and the mass murder spree he went on, including the murder of your dear friend, Beric Van Zeek's older brother. You know nothing about that because you left the country. Chat, I'm sorry if I do a lot of yawning. It's because I was up really late watching FanFest. Why I mentioned it. Ah, of course. You were in Germany already 10 years ago. Yes, the professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heartfelt sympathies. As it turns out, Lord Van Zeeks is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realize, isn't he? Yes, how true. His great friend from university in the dock. And now a waxwork of the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaper failed to foresee that kick in the teeth. Rude. A little bit. A little bit rude. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that in front of the man. I didn't do that intentionally. It just kind of happened. I'm not making this shit happen for my own benefit to watch him squirm. That would be weird, right? That'd be weird if we just voodoo hexed him. You make it sound deliberate. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It was not deliberate. I can't help feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling. Oh, yes. In what particular manner? Well, there's Mr. Drebber, Dr. Sith, and Lord Van Zeeks. It seems that everybody on the trial has a link to the case somehow. Yes, in fact, I alone am not a member of the set. Well, that leaves me as an empty set, all alone with no intersection to any other. Excuse me? Oh, it's Dr. Courtney Sith. Dr. Sith! I'm Dr. Courtney Sith, nay, Stevens. Good day to you. Hello, Sholmes. That was very shrewd of you. What in particular, pray? You requested that 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? Why would you assume such a thing? Because Gregson told me. He ratted you out. Think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory wielding my scalpel. The smell of nothing but corpses and disinfectant. A policeman on the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Sith. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. I'm sort of sorry. I'm hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. That certainly won't be possible. What do you mean? Why not? Lord Van Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Why the heck not? Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Oh. Why? Lord Strongheart? Can you stop? Momo, what are you doing? Get away from there. Scoot you over here. Lord Strongheart? Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. But attempting to hide from the truth, that's cowardice. I've always fought crime in the way that I see fit. I have no regrets, none at all. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. She mentioned it too. This Pandora's box. Whatever does it all mean? There's really no cause for concern. I assure you, when the trial resumes, the meaning will become all too apparent, whether you'd like it to or not. Huh? Ke? Qua? Nani? Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah, yes. One word of warning before I go. If in the course of the trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. I mean, that's what we do. That's what Naruhodos do. Us and Phoenix in the future. People get real mad at him for it. To the better end, you understand? Do not falter whatever may come to pass. Alright, I understand. Thank you. Good. I shall make myself scarce then. I purchased a bar of caramel earlier, so I shall be gnawing on that as you gnaw away at the truth. What did that warning from Mr. Sholmes really mean, I wonder? Especially the bit about whatever may come to pass. It's time for the final chapter, then. I'm determined to find the truth. No matter what. October 12:40 p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Dude, the waxwork just being there in the middle of the courtroom is weird. It's a little warm today, gotta stay hydrated. I know, Momo. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue? Prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord. The defense is also ready. As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny has began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition. Yet we now find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation. As seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord. Hey! Not my fault you guys suck at digging up the truth! So then, let us begin our exploration of the defense's assertion that the waxwork was cardinally involved in this matter. How do I get you to stop poking this thing, Momo? How do I get you to knock it off? Lord Van Zeeks? My lord? Are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Tuspels? Not at all. She's in the antechamber as we speak, and ready to be summoned. Stop! Momo! Quit it! We'll use this book to deter you. Hopefully without damaging my book? There we go. He keeps rubbing his face on a wire and I'm worried he's gonna chew into it. It's a very important wire. Very well, bring in the witness. At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Tuspels to the stand. Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Drubber's responsible, as I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice. Dr. Sith.
And what connects to the pair of them is the waxwork.
Yes, the model for the professor. That's the key to the link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tenuous link, admittedly, but at present it's all we have to go on. Is she making one of Shomes? State your name and occupation for the court, please.
My name is Madame Esmeralda Tuspels. I am a waxwork artisan and the proprietress of the Madame Tuspels Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon me for working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon.
Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there are two of them in the world.
Oh my! What expression is she carving onto that face?
A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this?
Oui, that is true. At first, we believed it had been kidnapped.
A waxwork model? Kidnapped?
Yes, my lord. There was damage for ransom money left behind by the culprit. However, according to what I have just been told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for the body of a murder victim.
At present, that is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. This is the victim in the case in question, Mr. Odie Asman.
But of course, I know him well. He is a part of my odious personages exhibit. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Osmond does not resemble the professor at all.
Yes, but perhaps... Camera keeps moving. Perhaps their faces are very similar?
Are you suggesting that we should see now the damasked visage of the professor? I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock.
This is absurd!
Pardon?
I don't know what face you've carved onto your fancy figure beneath that mask. But clearly, it won't be that of the actual killer. Indeed. A man's identity was never made public, after all. The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There's no possible way that a repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that information.
Quel dommage. It would seem you're unaware of the Tuspels principles.
What principles?
The family of Tuspels has always prided itself on sculpting its models à la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voila, our principles. There's a well-known legend about the Tuspels waxworks from the time of the French Revolution. A member of the Tuspels family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Oui, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct. The models on display still today in the House of Horrors. We Tuspels will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects.
Dear me. Somewhat disturbing tenacity of a purpose.
It is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations.
Do you mean to say that beneath that mask?
Oui, the true visage of the killer is there.
This is ludicrous. It's out of the question!
The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain.
Bah, tongue-tied.
As a result, the Madame Tuspel special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer, emerging from his own grave, is a sight to behold. You should come.
I think, madame, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on this matter. You will explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in its creation.
With pleasure.
Professor Waxwork!
The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on rumors that shocked society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with Tuspel's family principles. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery, just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered.
The gravedigger? The man sanctioned this?
Oui, I will do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance my family is celebrated for.
Sorry, 1 second. I gotta message somebody something. One second. And I forgot to turn on streamer mode on Discord so we don't get oops. Okay, sorry about that.
Nobody else knew, only the gravedigger. What harm did it do, huh?
So, you truly saw it? The face of that monster?
Naturally, I was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But Tuspels would not be Tuspels if we did not insist on absolute fidelity to our sculptures.
I don't believe this. I myself have seen the special exhibit at your museum, madam. A truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave.
The scene it depicts was the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time. The special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article.
Oh, okay, that's where she got the mask idea from. Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter. Man rises from the grave. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at a local cemetery. At Lowgate Cemetery, just behind the prison, on the night of that foul demon's execution, the newly interred professor forced off his grave cover as he clawed free of the earth. The young man who witnessed the scene was on the verge of raising a shriek when, when in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the reanimated, I don't know, man's chest, whose breath then stilled, and then something. The youth then finally released the scream he had been holding and ran for his life. The university student who experienced the horrifying events is Mr. Enoch Drebber, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of the student dorms. Mad sheep rampage, unexplained phenomenon. Rips, Oxfordshire region. Locals reported a most remarkable circumstance in which folded sheep were seized with a sudden fright and leapt something from fields and pens. Not even the something of the empire, blah yada yada. Charles Darwin to receive something medal. He's getting a medal. This year's recipient of the Royal Society's most prestigious award is Mr. Charles Darwin for his highly contributions and researches in the fields of geology, zoology, and botanical physiology. Mr. Darwin joins the ranks of such monumental figures as something and Leon Foucault, something in the years. The Great Stink. Something to finally address something issue. After a great many years, Parliament has at long last resolved to relieve the citizens of London and the horrifying stench that carries something and lingers in the soils of every man, woman, and child. A great sewer system is to be built underfoot that will divert fecal matter, something the like, away from the River Thames. Something suitable final something. Alright, last article on the right here. Was the Balmasquek to blame for the Great Blaze? The fire that engulfed the popular theatre continues to draw attention as reports that Her Majesty Queen Victoria herself visited the Royal Italian Opera to inspect the site and offer words of condolences to the theatre's owner, Mr. Frederick Guy. The theater had been under lease to famed magician John Henry Anderson, and there's some speculation that the blame for the fire lies squarely with him for his insistence on holding his Balmasque there. Could his magical tricks have played a trick on him, costing the city a great center for the arts? The investigation into the true cause is expected to continue into the next month, if not beyond, according to our sources. And there's a Krakatoa eruption that you can't see because it's underneath Momo's camera. But that's all it says, just says Krakatoa eruption. So a volcano erupted. Okay, anyway.
The special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article. It was the most detailed account of what happened, as reported by the eyewitnesses who saw it.
10-year-old article entered in the court record. Newspaper article recounting the tale of an eyewitness to the alleged resurrection of the professor from his grave on the night of his execution. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words. Oh my god, I can read this more clearly. Yay! lingers in the nostrils of every man, woman, and child. A great sewer system is to be built underfoot that will divert fecal matter, something the like, away from the river. Okay. A resurrected man's chest. Okay. Unexplained phenomenon grips Oxfordshire region. Oh, Copley metal. Okay, okay. Hold up. Odie Asman, right here. Do you see this? Oh, Asman. Does that mean he was the illustrator for this? Okay. All right, that's an interesting little tidbit.
The public enjoys absurdity, monsieur. That is why I've reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum.
And it's a waxwork from the exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it?
That is correct. The professor you see before you here.
Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. This waxwork links Jubber to Dr. Sith, and there has to be some reason for that, which hasn't yet come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Sith and Dr. Jubber were in on this crime together. All right, the special exhibit's based on a rumor. And that rumor would be...
A 10-year-old tale now, but one that no Londoner would ever forget.
Ah, right, I know just what you're talking about, I think.
Of course, it couldn't be anything else.
Yes, that story will never disappear.
The tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my House of Horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city, and it was like this. It was in Lowgate Cemetery behind the prison, in the dead of night after the execution of the killer. The interred professor slid back the stone slab covering his tomb and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside him. But an instant later, he heard an ear-splitting gunshot from over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse, and he fell motionless once more. The scream finally found its way.
Hold on. Sorry, excuse me.
The scream finally found its way from the mouth of the young witness, who turned and ran for his life.
Then... You know what? I'm just gonna clip this a little bit. Hold on. Hold up. No. OBS, please. There we go. The corpse climbed out of its own grave?
And then somebody shot him. Who? Who was it? Nobody knows, even today. But remember, it was just a rumor. Perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they love stories like this. That is why it was made in every newspaper across the capital.
Where you going, Mama? Now? But was it just a story? I mean, this is exactly the scene that can be seen today at your museum, isn't it?
Oui, the special exhibit was modeled on that very illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madame, might I say something? Please, go ahead, mademoiselle. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean it's entirely made up. I believe that often, rumors contain elements of the truth. Ah, I see that people from the East can be just as astute as the people of Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It's not possible for the dead to come back to life.
Sorry?
10 years ago, I was there in Locate Cemetery, after the criminal known as the Professor was killed by hanging. Took a wax impression of his visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you, the man was dead.
I see. It would certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate. I don't know, hanging's not always very effective. Depends, like... There's some people who can survive a hanging. Alright, she took the impression directly from the corpse.
Hold it!
Is that true of every waxwork in your museum, then?
It is, assuming the subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know.
What sort of letters?
When my time comes, please make a waxwork of me. Comme ça?
No!
My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a waxwork is an honor. For some criminals, a symbol of status, even.
Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax.
And it is thanks to one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of the special exhibit, of course, Professor.
Whose form you claim to have captured by taking impression from the actual corpse.
There are no exceptions to the principles of Tuspes.
Alright, she got the gravedigger to help.
Hold it!
Surely that's illegal, isn't it? It would seem the proprietress of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed.
Had nothing to do with money. The man is a part of London's criminal history. That is why I had to sculpt him, to record this history. It is the raison d'etre of the Tuspes Museum.
But if the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know the killer's true identity.
I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the professor.
Do you realize what you're saying? The professor's identity is a national secret! Hold on. What if the body they buried, the dead body they buried, the one that they were putting into the grave, the one that she took the face of, was not the actual professor? What if it was Barrick's brother? Then he'll know immediately. If we open that up and it's his brother's face, he'll know immediately that that's not the professor. And that a fake body was killed and was put into that grave to be killed. That'd be messed up.
I understand. And now that the truth about the special exhibit is revealed, it must perhaps close.
course it will, as will your entire museum if you don't tread very carefully, madame.
That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think, don't you?
So 10 years ago, on the night of the professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse?
Oui, exactement.
She hid until she got a signal.
Hold it!
You were there longer than you expected to be?
I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open, and I had problems with the chin.
Why did that happen? Dare I ask?
The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. His muscles were relaxing, and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought. Under normal circumstances, I would have an assistant with me.
Let me turn off the cat cam because the cat's gone.
However, that night I was alone, and as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time.
What do you mean by preferred window of time?
When I take the impression of the visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after death.
Why 3 hours? Is that the amount of time? Is that amount of time significant?
It is because of rigor mortis.
A Wrigley mortis?
It's a name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And then from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. The effect is often used to estimate the time of death when a body is discovered.
Oh, that's how that works. I never knew. That's interesting. We're learning how to identify time of death. Well, that was an education, if a slightly scary one.
As the Mademoiselle says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death and it starts in the jaw.
I see, so that's why you wait.
Before that time, the mouth falls open, and it is very difficult to do my work.
Ugh, it's getting hard for me to do my work. All this talk of corpses. I wonder about that information the courts just heard from Madame Dispels. It must be significant. The information about rigor mortis that you just shared with us, would you mind including it in your formal testimony? I believe it could be significant, you see.
Of course, I do not mind at all.
Death by hanging at midnight.
Can't help feeling that after this latest topic, the atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave.
This is no time for jokes, Mrs. Sato. Madame, kindly amend your testimony as discussed.
Yes, sir.
Took her a very long time because it's before the onset of rigor mortis. Okay.
Hold it!
Around what time was this? Were you there then? That's important. Rigor mortis being the phenomenon you described whereby the corpse becomes stiff after death? I think you said that it starts at the jaw about 3 hours post-death, is that right?
Oui, c'est ça. Of course, the exact duration depends a little on the season.
I didn't realize a waxwork artisan would be so well versed in the subject.
Oh no, that is only elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine.
Well, I had no idea about it, but maybe I won't admit to my ignorance about forensic science.
I could ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you like.
I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them.
Oh dear, I'll do my very best.
It should have been nowhere near dawn if it was before 3 hours, because she... Before the onset of rigor mortis. No, she had to deal with a fresh body. Yeah, it should have been... Because he was killed at around midnight. That should have been nowhere near dawn. As dawn approached, she was very worried she could be discovered. You say that dawn was approaching? What was the time of day then? Approximately.
Well, I could not say. But when I left the cemetery with my utensils and wax, the morning light was becoming visible.
The execution took place on the 17th of June, which had the earliest sunrise of that year. Indeed it did. First light would have been at around 4:40 in the morning. That really is early.
The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work in a half hour.
So that would have been... You probably would have started around 4. No, rigor mortis should have been well started by then.
It was necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe, so I had to hurry.
Is it me, or does Mr. Shum seem to be taking shape more quickly now, too? You certainly appear to go to extraordinary lengths for your work, madame. I wonder, is what she just said particularly significant? Yes. But those details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture and the early sunrise, could you include them in your testimony? I believe they may be significant.
Of course, if you would like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Naruhodo. It is intriguing. A sunrise at 4 in the morning would be as absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it?
That's not quite what I meant by significant. Finally amend your formal testimony then, madame.
With pleasure, my lord. I hurried to finish my work in the half hour before sunrise. Then I left as soon as the corpse was interred.
Alright, we're gonna save. Alright, definitely the time. It's gonna be either on this one or the next one. Okay, it's one of these two. The timing is off. Alright, let's try it. Objection! Nope, not this one. Defense would have to object to that last statement. I would have to reveal your objection. Yeah. The defense would have to accept the penalty given. Glad to hear it, and you would also have to think again. Alright, let's try it on this one. Before the onset of rigor mortis. Shit! That was the wrong button! I hate it when I do that. Okay, let's try it here.
Objection!
There we go. That's the one. Madame Dispels. I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows.
And is that a problem?
I believe it is, because your testimony and a particular detail in the report completely contradict one another.
Quoi?
Are you going to explain yourself, my Nipponese friend? According to her testimony, Madame Tispels was creating her waxwork impression just before dawn. And at that time, rigor mortis had not yet set in. Am I correct so far, Madame?
You are, yes. As I said, the stiffening of the jaw is the first sign of rigor mortis, 2 to 3 hours after death. But the man's chin was limp, so he cannot have been dead for a long time.
But on the other hand, if you look at Dr. Sith's report, it quite clearly states the following. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, 17th of June. No. If the professor indeed died at midnight that day, then by the time you were sculpting his face, rigor mortis would already have set in.
Oui, yes, you are right. The chin, it would have been completely stiff.
In other words, this report is wrong.
Objection!
No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea is absurd. In that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. Impossible! Order, order! Council, this is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. Sith, but you also implicate members of the staff at Barclay Prison where the execution took place. By heck, extraordinary! Not in my day! My learned friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact. What fact? Professor died that night, without question.
He did, of course he did. I moved the man's limp jaw with my own hands. There was no...
Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows? Didn't die it? Are you insane? What exactly are you suggesting did happen in that case? It's almost impossible to believe, but it would explain the link between Dr. Sith, the professor, and the one other person of interest. I have evidence that will explain exactly what I'm suggesting happened that night. Council, present the evidence at once. The evidence that allegedly explains what really happened on the night of the professor's execution. He wasn't actually dead. He did actually get up. And then he was shot by Odi Asman, who drew the scene, was the witness, and probably had a gun. Possibly? Is that what we're going with, maybe? I think that's what we're going with for now, but I don't know if that's actually what happened. I think that's just what we need to move forward and try to get more information.
Take that!
What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper article. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. You're suggesting it was a corpse coming back from the dead now? Well, if this article is to be believed, yes. The professor, assumed dead following his execution, emerged from his grave and was killed again.
Objection!
Don't be a fool! That's simply a rumor published by the gutter press. Can you be certain of that? Are you serious? The point is, as the article says, there was a witness to what happened. I would! Yes, indeed!
Mais oui! The young man who stole into the cemetery by chance that night.
Objection!
Of course there was a witness. The story didn't write itself, but obviously the man made it all up. And in any case, this was 10 years ago now. There'd surely be no hope of finding him. He signed his name on the damn illustration.
Objection!
On the contrary, my lord, we all know this witness well. What? Are you suggesting, counsel, that you've identified the person in question? That you know who claims to have seen these utterly incredible events take place? Yes, my lord. In fact, you could say that he's right here before my very eyes. Are we talking about rubber? Or what? What do we... I mean, because Drebber was the witness.
Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter.
Who is the alleged witness of the staggering scene from the cemetery 10 years ago? We either say it's Odie Asman or we say it's Enoch Drebber. Alleged witness of the staggering scene. I'm going with Odie Asman.
Take that!
I must say, I'm quite staggered by the scene I see before me now, Counsel. Of a young man with his eyes tightly shut, clearly pointing at a person at random. Okay. No, don't do it. I meant the actual witness there in the scene, which is Enoch Drebber. I just didn't want to sit through loading.
Take that!
This is faster. Man in question is Mr. Enoch Drebber. Drebber? Yeah, it says right there in the newspaper. Are you guys blind? The previous witness? A special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tussauds Museum of Waxwork recreates that decade-old scene in great detail. Condemned criminal emerging from the grave. Beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man is a 10-year younger Mr. Enoch Drebber. Order, order, order! Surely not, Counsel. It says right there in the fucking article. Are you guys blind? Drebber was there in Lowgate Cemetery. It literally says that in the article, like in multiple places, in big print. Odie Asman's signature, I could understand you guys not seeing because it's a signature, but like it very clearly says Enoch Drebber. Y'all are blind. That's why I was like, that's too obvious. That can't be it. Let's try the other one first. That's a little bit less obvious, but no, they just don't read.
What is all this talk about Mr. Drebber? Is the name significant?
Of course, Madame Tussauds doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, Madame. To your situation as well, in fact.
What situation?
The theft of the Professor waxwork from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man.
No! But that would mean...
Madame Tussauds. It would appear you know the name, Enoch Drebber.
Oui. Yes, I know it. But far from long ago in the past.
What?
Oh my!
Good gracious! Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know.
Yes, of course. Story of the young man and the terrible sight he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, all of the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed.
Are you fucking kidding me? 'Cause literally in this 10-year-old article it says, Mr. Drebber. Enoch Drebber. Like, what?
That is, apart from in one newspaper.
Oh, okay. So we have the one where it states...
The Daily Circus. It appears it is the paper from which comes the article I've already shown the court.
You're saying that his full name was only publicized in that article? Goodness me, yes, here it is! The university student who experienced this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Drebber, disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of its student dorms. Unbelievable. It's like you guys didn't even bother to read it when it was presented as evidence. That should have been the first thing that you did.
When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night would make a perfect exhibit for my house of horrors, whether it was the truth or not.
I see. So you went to meet with Mr. Drebber in order to sculpt a waxwork of the man, did you?
Exactement. He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork, and since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of terror from the cemetery.
So, 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he'd witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death, re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote, was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would the man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into the Crystal Tower. If the birdcage had in fact contained not the body of Mr. Asman, but the same waxwork, the coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated, Dr. Sith, would have noticed immediately. And yet she submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court has seen earlier. Why? Because the waxwork was that of the professor, is that what you're saying? Dr. Sith put her name to a document confirming the death of a condemned criminal who was still alive. A criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the body double. Ugh! My lord, this court must summon Dr. Sith to the stand. The defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. According to the missive I received this morning through the prosecutor's office, Dr. Sith is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case? It's not that she's not able, she's just being muzzled. Illegally.
She told us herself, didn't she?
Lord Van Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Lord Strongheart? Pandora's box you were warned about is the professor case. Please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. Something happened on the night of that killer's execution 10 years ago. And surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Van Zeeks. Prosecution calls for the instructions in that missive to be scrapped. Ooh! You on the side of truth now, Lord Van Zeeks? But Lord Van Zeeks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's office.
Objection!
The assigned prosecutor has the final say on policy in any particular trial. In other words, me. Yes! Be on my side, the side of justice! Let Enoch Drebber and Dr. Sith both take the stand together. He's like, I need to know what the fuck happened with my brother's killer. Order, order, order! Very well, I will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect against Dr. Sith of the Forensics Investigation Team. A woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alright then, Enoch Drebber and Dr. Sith. They weren't colluding with one another. This crime could never have been committed. Just a stone's throw away. I can feel it. The truth behind all of this is about to come out. I feel like we're in for some shit. Oh, she's still there too. She's just having a good time over there. Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Sith.
Disappointed in you, Lord Van Zeeks. Completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Betrayal is not in my nature, as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, there's even a hint of wrongdoing, and no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt. Set the stage for Edgeworth later. He took a while to get there himself, too. Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Sith, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. Shit. It is the belief of the defense. Oh! Hello, hello! Welcome on in, Raiders. Thank you so much, Vivian Delta, for the raid. Hello, how's everybody doing? How's it going? I'm Sparkling Parfait, variety streamer here. And Saturdays we're doing Ace Attorney. But how was your stream? What were you guys playing? How are y'all doing? You guys are playing 14? Love it. Love to see that. Were you guys raiding? What were you up to? Did you check out the fan fest? Because I stayed up late to watch the keynotes and opening ceremony for FanFest, and gosh, I was so tired. You're doing some CC today, and you did a short one? Very nice, very nice. And you did? Beautiful. I'm so excited for Dawn Trail. In my opinion, a lot of the new areas I was looking at, I was like, this is like taking a walk through Disney World. You got like the area that is kind of like Animal Kingdom, like being in the safari over there, and then you got like the Jungle River cruise, and then there's like the Avatar area, and then you got Star Wars Land, and I was just like, damn, it's like walking around Disney World. It's like you asked the Warrior of Light, like, what, you just saved the entire damn universe. What do you want to do next? And you're like, I'm going to Disney World. That was my takeaway. I thought it was hilarious. And also very excited for the new job and all that. But yeah, I hope your CC matches were good, and hope you won them. CC's very exciting. But yeah, we're just doing a little Ace Attorney. I think we're gonna actually wrap up this case today. I can feel it. We're almost there. I'm pretty sure we're on the last part. Super excited. You gotta run for some self-care, but you'll be lurking. Hey! No worries, no worries. I completely understand. I gotta do the same a lot of times when I raid people too. So go take care of yourself, relax, hydrate, do whatever you need to do, get food. Totally understand. And thank you again for the raid. Much appreciated. Ace Attorney here. I'm excited that we're almost done, I'm pretty sure. So we have Dr. Sith and Enoch Drebber and Madame Dispels all on the stand right now, and I think this is probably going to be the last bit. Or if it's not the last, then it's like the second of the last, but we will finish this case today. I'm very sure of it. Okay. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime. Where is your evidence? At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer known as the Professor was sentenced to death 10 years ago. No need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes and officially pronounced him dead. And that remains to be seen. Is that so? According to the newspaper reports from the time, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time. The sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? Well, him and whoever shot the corpse. If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Sis. A secret so profound it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact. The clockwork of this guy is really amusing to watch. Mr. Drebber, tell the court. Tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Lowgate Cemetery.
So he was the student who saw it? You can see the resemblance, actually, can't you? The man in the Madame Tussauds, I mean.
Surely he's not going to claim that that's really what he saw, especially after all these years.
He was a research student at the University of London, wasn't he? A bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me.
What an interesting twist. At the time, not one person would take me seriously. Yet now, here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters. In a court of law, too. I love the way he moves, it's really cool. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth. She seems not amused. So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, of course, as you wish. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago... Sorry. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for... a spot of moonlighting, shall we say? Yes. The illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. It was all because of that newspaper article. Wait a minute. You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course. You'd have to have a screw loose if you believed a corpse could come back from the dead. I think you have a screw loose. But, so you're saying this article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly. Yes. Ah!
The details in the article aren't true. It nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Sith would have been working together.
So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument? Ah, hell no! We'll get to the bottom of this. Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate? That's right. Grave robbing, to be precise. As you know, Locate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead. Somehow worse? I'd rather you dismembering dead people's bodies versus just taking their shit. Like, what's worse here? So you were one of those so-called resurrectionists, particularly unpleasant scourge on society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name. The Repurposers. It's quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. A daily circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. Caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. It was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I see. Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article? It says right there, O.D. Osmond. Yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Oh, that's why he has a grudge against Asmund. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, all right. That's why he killed him, because he ruined his life. I see. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done. Claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish. Very foolish. Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed to the cross-examination now. At once, my lord. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. Alright, so he was there for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say.
Hold it!
By moonlighting, you mean grave robbing, do you? Surely you need only look at the graveyard scene in my appearance to gauge the answer to that. A lantern and spade. But who on earth would you want to buy? Who on earth would want to buy a dead body? Any major hospital? A hospital? In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science. And there isn't a hospital in the world that has no specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we made surreptitious arrangements at the hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand. You realize body snatching is a serious crime? If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences. Students are caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for our research. Professor Harebrained said exactly the same. I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you've revealed this abhorrent behavior. He's like, well, I'm already in deep shit, so like, might as well just fess up. Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Locate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected it to end the way it did. That I regret to this day. Illustration was based on what he witnessed that night.
Hold it!
Strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf. But they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead? I started big with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital, as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale. The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets. And yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories. What about the article in the Daily Circus? That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. Because he was a secret underworld overlord. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night. And from your description, he drew this illustration? Precisely. That's how I learned the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see. Oh, so he doesn't even know who it was that he ran into. He just saw some shit and was like, oh, crap. Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate, then. Well. He never actually saw the professor at all, though. He doesn't know who he saw, because, I mean, how would he know? He was just a student there to, like, go pick up some bodies. No particular target. What are you talking about? Think I explained already, didn't I? Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison, so it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night, and as a result, only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life. But you said you actually saw it! I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, you have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night. I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he really did see the professor? Maybe the prison number? That's the explosion. No, we don't have anything about number 139. See, this is based on the sketch, though, so I don't really think that's super helpful. I don't know. I don't think we have anything yet. We might get something later, though.
We have anything at all, Mr. Naruhodo?
I know, I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his. The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. And then he was visited by a young woman who, yeah, by Madame Dispels.
Hold it!
That young woman being Madame Dispels, of course. Precisely. I must say, I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later.
As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article, and, comme ça, I found the man.
Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said. I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. And the young lady put £5 in front of me. So, you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display? I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded.
Ah, oui, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day, n'est-ce pas?
Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, madame?
His camera.
Ah, the camera with the bloodstains on it. Ah, yes. I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery. Took a camera with you, sir? To what end? To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it. I see.
But I still have it, monsieur. It is a part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Dispel's way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Mr. Drebber took with him to Lowgate Cemetery on the night in question.
Yes, interesting. We might have to look at the camera again. We did see the blood on it. Gave up on his dream and became a scientist, all because of that newspaper article. Before I read this, we're gonna look at the camera. Speaking of camera, let me do some lighting adjustment here. All right. That's where the photographic plate goes. It's an incredible thing that this is the actual camera Mr. Drebber used that night. I certainly never imagined a piece of evidence would be on display in Madame Dispel's. She's very keen on everything being as true to life as possible, though, isn't she?
A wonderful machine.
Oh yeah, this is the same as before. Or she just wants to take things apart. For Professor Mikotoba, and then here's the blood.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo.
What is it? And the bellows here, yeah, there's something, a dark red stain. It looks like blood. Not sure what she's thinking. That blood's gotta be something. He would have had it out, so how did the blood get there? Alright, anyway. This article, you mean, published in the Daily Circus? Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article. Carelessly let slip that after that night, I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result.
Mon Dieu, I had no idea.
Having been run out of the university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. You combined your knowledge of science with the knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you used those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Harebrain was just your latest victim, wasn't he? Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort. What's Trevor up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim?
I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now.
What circumstances?
Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Sith's past that she would desperately want to hide.
Yes, of course. If Jabber and Dr. Sith are working together now, then if Jabber were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead, as he originally claimed.
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly.
Okay, but I don't think I have hard evidence. The closest thing I can think of is the camera, but I don't know if that's hard evidence or not. Never actually saw the professor. But did your camera see it? Did you take a picture, perhaps? Alright, let's try it. Objection! Nope. Surely something about that last statement seems odd. I mean, it does. Alright. Sounds serious. I'll prove my worth. Yeah. Okay. We have to present something here. He never actually saw the professor. On the verge of raising a shriek, and the next second gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. Bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath was then stilled once more. The youth then finally released the scream he had been holding and ran for his life. On the night of the foul demon's execution... we just present the article and see what happens? I don't know what else we have to go off of.
Objection!
Oh, was that? Okay. Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that. Don't believe what? Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that night 10 years ago. Oh dear. You seem to be at odds. But I was there, and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging from a tomb, wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in closed court's rulings that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial. Ah, okay. That checks out. Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you'd actually seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration. Order, order! Well, Mr. Drebber? A vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified. Which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course, of course. Only too happy to oblige. Can't believe he's still not going to concede the point. What I, in fact, witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work. How the fuck does that make any sense?
Hold it!
A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see. You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself? Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. I don't feel like that's how that works, though. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity, wouldn't you say?
Objection!
But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. I'd assumed that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them. If the gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news, my lord. Ah, yes, well. I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by the reporter. Madame Dispels!
Excuse me!
He has something to add here. Madame Dispels, don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes.
Oh la la! Pardon. I was lost in my thoughts.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way?
I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber could claim this now.
If you don't mind me saying, madame, what are you talking about?
Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the gunshot.
Stop. Might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Hey! I agree with him. For once, I agree with him. Have a care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady. Please, Madame Dispels. Carry on.
Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man.
I said nothing of the sort. Okay, but your camera proves otherwise.
No, you were very explicit about the details. About the mask that the figure was wearing. And the blood that spattered over you when he was shot.
Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making this all this up. That'll do. Mr. Drebber? Yes. You refute the account just given by Madame Dispels? I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on, do you really expect us to believe you? Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom. Right. Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness. Very well. He knows what I'm gonna do. But we're gonna question him first. There's no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any spattering blood.
Hold it!
You sure about that? Yet Madame Dispels has testified that you told her about both of those details. Not true. I said nothing of the sort. 10 years have passed. Without material evidence to the contrary, you have no grounds on which to question the witness's word. Ah. Tell me, Madame Dispels.
Oui?
What exactly did Mr. Drebber say about the blood that apparently spattered on him?
Alors, this is what he told me. All of a sudden, he heard a very loud gunshot from behind his back. The bullet hit the figure who was emerging from the tomb in the middle of the chest. His heart.
One dreadful sight after another.
And since Monsieur Drebber was at the time facing toward the condemned man, the blood sprayed from the wound and spattered on his body. That is what he told me.
So, not an experience you would ever forget, is it? Precisely. I didn't forget it, because as I've already said, it never happened in the first place. He's clearly lying. Only he had some evidence to prove it. Which we do.
We can't let him win, Mr. Naruhodo. So we mustn't overlook a single detail, no matter how small.
Alright, it's camera time. No spattering of any blood. You sure? You sure about that? You really sure? Objection! Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera?
What? That is the camera from that fateful night.
Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber. How are we allowed to just borrow shit without asking? We would think that she'd be mad, except we're proving her point, so I guess she'll forgive us, presumably. But we still stole it. And is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forward on the end of some bellows. Like this. What's that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord! Are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood.
Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Sith?
It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough. I propose that Madame Dispel's testimony was correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, And that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. Yeah. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose then? Who could benefit? Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness, he's shielding someone? Yes, my lord. And clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night? We're gonna save. Just in case we've screwed this up. I'm pretty sure it's Dr. Sith, because it would mean that she gave a bad autopsy report.
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Sith. Sith? What? Whatever do you mean? Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor, what? That would be an unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened. Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape. Not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. That were really true, Counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up. And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Sith would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if that meant being complicit in a crime. You mean... I mean that Dr. Sith wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with a waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Ah! That's a shoe. Lord Van Zeeks? Pray forgive my freshly filled hallowed chalice, and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? The condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night only to be shot in the chest. Who pulled the trigger? And disposed of him forever? Well, I have no idea at the moment.
You have too little information to work that out at present, I think.
I couldn't agree more. The Old Bailey's no place for wild fantasies. Okay, but can we just open up the mask and just save us all a lot of trouble when we realize that it's definitely someone who could not have been the professor that she got the facial print from? I think that would save us a whole lot of trouble, because I'm pretty sure that's the path we're gonna go down. Have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. Rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits, too. Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Actually, you did. You had a very obvious reason. Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no? There is the contract, that's very true. The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it.
Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme, especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place.
The research grant was the aim. Taking Mr. Asmund's life would have made no sense anyway. The reason was revenge. Which means Mr. Drebber's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asmund. But why? What was his motive then? Revenge! Y'all need eyes! It's on the newspaper article! Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? Nice dodge, Cosma. How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country? At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright, who exactly was Mr. Asmund to Drebber? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet. And I'm gonna have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. I know exactly which 2. Yes, my lord. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. We're gonna save anyway, even though I'm 99% confident I know what the answer is. Always good to be safe.
Take that!
The article. It's this newspaper article, my lord. That was written 10 years ago. Every detail has been examined already. How can it possibly tell us? You guys just need eyes. That drivel should never have been written. It's typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asmund dead. What other evidence? Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence, which when cross-referenced with a newspaper article, establishes a motive for the deed. There you go, here's the contract. It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asmund. Yes, that's right. Very documented, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? Yeah, you guys need eyes. Just please, it's so big. That is a fucking front page of the newspaper photo. Y'all need to get your eyes checked. Nope. Hold up. Brighter? Not brighter. Figuring out lighting when the lighting changes because you're by a window is rough. Hold on. I'll fix it. There we go. That's trimmed. Oh, a little more. I still see a little sliver. There we go. That should be good for y'all. And then now... that'll do. And it's that common link that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. O.D. Asmund. It seems that offense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed because you guys don't use your eyeballs! So, my learned friend, point out what these 2 pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contract? Right there.
Take that!
What these 2 pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. A signature? The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal and released his name. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. That's actually not very small. Considering how big a newspaper is, that is like... This is fucking huge. It's bigger than any of the titles of the article on the articles, you know? Like, it's really big. That should be really hard to miss. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom. Let me see now. Good lord, yes, they're identical! In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. VoD Asman. Got him. Explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asman? Because he ruined his life and got him kicked out of university, duh. Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. That is quite beyond the pale! You would invite divine retribution, sir! Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. Caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. And I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. It was all because of that newspaper article. At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life. Told Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. So, you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually, you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article written by Mr. Asman. Enough! You gonna have a breakdown? We haven't really looped Dr. Sith into this enough, though. Stop this endless drivel about my life. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber. Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. They struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did. Only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen, patented by some wretch or other after all. Good gracious! Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that is a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Lowgate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection.
Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I had possessed talent for science than me? You have awards. sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? And I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine. If you think you have evidence, go ahead. Show it. What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave university because I lacked talent? Because you didn't lack talent. You were rewarded by the Royal Society.
Take that!
It was very prestigious. You were the genius. Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? Yes, exactly. What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There's no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious! Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. Truth. It's... Finally, it's gonna fold. I don't know about that. Oh? Someone's saying hold it. It's Dr. Sith. Fine. Clearly this has run its course now. What? I admit it. All of it. What? What are you doing? It's exactly as the Japanese man said. He's coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. No. Hold up, if she's admitting to it this easily, there's something more that happened with this case. There's something more with what happened 10 years ago, and it's like somehow chalking it up to her, like she flubbed the autopsy report and taking the blame onto herself is the lesser of evils compared to whatever the fuck actually happened. Ooh, that's messed up. Good lord! Dr. Sith, do you realize what you're saying, woman? It's all true. That day... Is she doing this to protect her daughter? Who is her new husband? When I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Sith, you will go along with my plan. Someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago. All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Why on earth would you buckle now? Well, there's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? Could have done anything to stop it coming out. Collaborate in a murder. The great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished. So she's finished, but I feel like there's still more. There had to be more people involved with whatever the cover-up was 10 years ago, otherwise there's too many people involved. I feel like. I don't know. There's some shit going on. So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything. Surely it goes without saying. You admit your part in it too, then? I admit nothing. At all. What? I mean, not surprised, but come on. Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. No! Order, order, order! Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. Lord Van Zeeks? Yes. I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course. I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper form in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain. Okay, true. Very true. It slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends? As the court has heard, Dr. Sith has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. You mean... At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? None, my lord.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. It feels a little empty because we didn't actually get to the bottom of what the fuck's going on.
But I guess that's what the remaining cases are for. We gotta pick at this slowly until we can back someone into a corner where they can't just be like, oh, well, the immediate issue is solved, so, you know, we're gonna stop you here, and then, like, we're gonna backdoor this shit. Close rooms.
You've proven Professor Harebrain's innocence.
Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss. Not about the current case, no, but about the past case and the future case. We got some questions still, but for Albert's sake, we should probably let him go. I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. It's because we didn't get to the bottom of all the mysteries. Why did Dr. Sith suddenly admit to it like that?
Is everything all right, Mr. Naruhodo?
Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is... Oh my god, we're doing it! We want the truth! For Phoenix Freight and Apollo Justice, we need the truth!
Objection!
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. I beg your pardon? We demand one final testimony. What? You do realize I'm about to adjudicate in favor of your client, I presume? What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that.
So, Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking?
The truth. The whole truth, and a way to bring it all out into the open.
Right.
Yes, in hindsight. Oh, this is what Shums was telling us. Like, once we get... Don't let go. Be a dog with a bone. Be like, nah, I want that truth. You can't hide it behind your damn closed doors. I need it. Ah, yes. One word of warning before I go. If in the course of this trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. The bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Sure, Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client, and to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court, to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Sith. Testimony from me? About what? About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber. Case has escaped your attention. I've already admitted to everything I did. Whole truth has already been revealed. Stop wasting everyone's time. As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point to protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. Oh, he just wasted the bottle. Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle. It slipped. That's what you call it? You slipped? What is your objection, Lord Van Zeeks? The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness. Don't be stupid. There's more to this case than has yet come to light. And I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end. Thank you! He's becoming our Edgeworth now. You'll what? Lord Van Zeeks? Oh, wait, sorry. It was more like Lord Van Zeeks. This is most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Sith, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber. Aye. Very well. The waxwork plot. It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, is beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which is my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret at the highest level, and to protect it. So I was right, the stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception. So it seems, and all meticulously prepared, Did well to see through it. A very shrewd boy. So kind of you to say.
What about this autopsy report then?
All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage.
That's all. It's a terrible corruption.
Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you. We must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for a cross-examination, I would say. No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. So look at that expression on Dr. Sith's face. It's the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following testimony. What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent? Who have you met before? Very well, if you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Alright, she saw the waxwork and the note.
Hold it!
From what you described before, it sounds like that note was anonymous. Do you have any idea who is behind it? There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer. So no, I had no idea. But despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it? I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern. But the horse had bolted now. Sorry, hold up. But the horse has bolted now. The stable door will never be shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of this. Yes, thank you, Lord Van Seeks. I'm well aware of that. I like how Madame Dispels was basically dipped from this testimony. So, as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where then was the victim's body? The body was beneath the experimentation stage. So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then? It's quite obvious what had happened with the victim at the waxwork. You switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower, and the waxwork wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time. And why were you given such directions? Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame Dispels. I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage? Yes, although somebody obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still. I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. It had to be arranged.
Hold it!
When you say arranged, I presume you mean with this? Yes, the instructions in the engineer's note said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Harebrain alone could have killed Asmund. So, do you mean that was your doing? I fetched Harebrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage. Took it with me, alone, to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen. Alone, Doctor? Didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then, took the screwdriver in both hands, plunged it into the man's chest. And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report as a fictitious cause of death. Exactly. So, the actual cause of death was trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop. I would. What is it, Mrs. Sato?
Something about Dr. Sith's last statement. It's playing on my mind, that's all.
(20 p.m.) Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart. Broken vertebrae most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Yes, mine too. Dr. Sith. There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well. The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony.
Oh?
Which part? What I want her to supplement her testimony with is... what she did to the victim or the cause of death. Now, poking through the grill in the base of what remains of the kinesis machine. It was poking through the grill at the base of the machine. By a sharp implement. But screwdrivers aren't exactly sharp. Let's try this one first. The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet. That part. Fine, if that's what you want. Stop yelling, please. Oh, okay, sorry. I think I meant the other one. Prosecution concurs. Very well, you will supplement your testimony now, witness. You wish, my lord. The actual cause of death was the neck trauma has been suffered from the 30-foot fall.
Hold it!
You're quite sure of that? It was a result of a broken neck? Yes, as a professional, that was more than apparent.
You'd never know just by looking at the photograph of the victim, though, would you?
No, that's very true. Obviously not. But it's precisely why coroners are needed to determine the actual facts. Yes, assuming they can be trusted. No point in calling your assessment into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony. Very well. Let's finish pressing her on the other stuff, and then we'll think about this a little more. Alright, she got the entire team to help her. The entire team in perverting the course of justice? My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. We operate on a code of chivalry of sorts. You aid and abet a murder, commit perjury, and dare to talk of chivalry? It was a matter of priorities. What? Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. My team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. Consider their conduct exemplary. Ugh.
Don't concede the point, Mr. Naruhodo. You mustn't let her win.
I need a lawyer. I'll take that silence as a tacit acceptance. Now, can we move on? it's a state secret, the execution. But at what cost? Faith in Scotland Yard is going to suffer a terrible blow as a result of this. And your precious secret is out now anyway.
Yes, as you say. And I take full responsibility.
Blow me down, Dr. Sith! Surely there was some other way you could have protected the secret? No, there really wasn't. I've done my utmost, believe me. Many ways, I respect your determination. Ooh, I nearly froze under that cold stare as she said that.
Do you believe she was being genuine, though, Mr. Naruhodo?
So that's her story.
She's admitted everything and revealed her full involvement in the crime. I do wonder if there could really be much more to it.
Well, I don't know, but I just have a feeling.
Do you, Mr. Naruhodo? The truth is, I find it strange too. And those two are reacting to this in a completely opposite ways, I mean.
Yes, exactly. For some reason, I feel sure they're still trying to hide something. Let me get your other statement about what you did. I mean, what you did with this, correct? Just carrying out the instructions. Fabricate evidence to make it clear the harebrain alone could have killed Asmund. She leaned down over the birdcage and opened it up. Then she took the screwdriver in both hands, plunged it into his chest. After that, it was simply a matter of recording the stab wound as the cause of death. The real cause of death being the fall. The real cause of death being the fall. No, that's not what she wrote. You know, if you think it would be appropriate... Sure, you can ask Dr. Sith to change out the supplement. Okay, yeah. What should I ask her to do with the statement? No, leave it. I don't think there's any need to ask her to change it. Of course. Was the neck trauma. That's not what she wrote in the report, though. Okay, hold on. Let me reread that. Recording the stab wound is the cause of death. Oh, okay, that is what she did. The real cause of death was the fall. The actual cause of death was the 30-foot fall. But he would have presumably fell anyway. So, like, why was there a need to hide that? That doesn't make any sense. Maybe we'll try... Okay, we did just say it, so let's try presenting here, and if we're wrong, then we'll have her change the statement and try the other one. But which thing should we present? Oh, that's tough. Because he would have fell 30 feet from here anyway if we went with it was a machine malfunction. It doesn't make sense for her to say that that was the actual... Like... What was the point of stabbing him? I think I'm on the right track with like what's wrong, but I just don't know how to prove it. Let me see what... Okay, let's actually change it after all. So I want to know what the other statement says. I think I'm on the right track with like what's wrong. I just need to know. I need to pinpoint it. If the real cause of death was just the fall, I don't know why she would need to like stab him, because it was fine as it was. Have her change it. Dr. Sith, what you said before about what you did to the victim's body, I believe that may be significant, so could you change your supplementary statement to explain that instead? Very well. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest.
Hold it!
Let's just question that really quick. So it was you who stabbed Asmund with this? Yes, far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required. What a welcome change. The victim died instantly from a snapped neck. All I did was carry out the instructions I'd been given. As unflinchingly as ever, no doubt. I imagine you didn't bat an eyelid when you drove the weapon into his body. There's no need to bat my eyelids. What else did you do to twist the facts? Remind the court, why don't you? You wish. No, I definitely think it's the other statement.
Hold it!
Pretty sure it's the other statement, so let's have her change it back. Real cause of death being the fall. Yes, please change it back. You said before about the real cause of death. I believe that may be significant, so could you change your supplementary statement to that instead? Okay. But why? Most likely resulting in the impact after a sudden fall from a considerable height. But why would she need to change the cause of death is what I don't understand. I'm just gonna fucking... Nope, that's not it. I don't know how long this is, and I don't want to find out. I just want to present stuff until we figure this out. I got an idea. Oh, I just got an idea. No, never mind. I don't have an idea. Sorry, the idea left me.
Objection!
No, that's not it. Vance would, yeah. I was like, what if they needed to stab him to hide the fact that he got shot by an arrow? But it's like, no, the arrow was shot at the balloon and the body was not in there. The actual cause of death was the neck trauma. Was it though? While he was riding in a balloon, chose another balloon. Is it really the neck trauma though? Because, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. It seems weird, like, if they just left it at neck trauma, that would already, like, prove the faux experiment. Like, yeah, he got teleported and then he, like, fell and broke his neck. Like, why would you... That could already be pinned on Hairbrain. As, like, yeah, he's the one who killed him. Well, I guess they wanted to make it seem like it was a, intended. I guess that's what they were trying to do. They wanted to make it look like Hairbrain intended to kill him, so he stabbed him before he teleported over. The actual cause of death was neck trauma. Okay. So if the actual cause of death was neck trauma, there was an apparent stab wound to the chest. And all it says is that she's the one who stabbed him if we go with the other statement. Can I go back that far in the history? Far easier. He stooped over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage, plunged the screwdriver into his chest. Where it lay in the toppled cage, and then she stabbed him in the chest with the screwdriver. But why would she... We found it in the grill. At the base of the machine. That's because metal doesn't teleport. But how would she know that? She had nothing to do with the experiment. Unless it said to leave it there. Wooden cage that was used. So this is the one that he died in. How did he get neck trauma if he would have landed feet first? I guess, I guess you can, but...
Objection!
No, okay. Yeah, you can. But I'm like, it made a little more sense with the other cage is the thing. I mean, I guess there's still shock, because, like, you get hit by a car and still have, like, neck trauma that hurts. I don't know if it could kill you, though. I don't know, it probably could. I'm just grasping at straws at this point. Actual cause of death was the neck trauma he suffered from the 30 feet fall. I don't know. Maybe we will go back to the other statement after all.
Hold it!
Real cause of death being the fall, of course. Okay. Yeah. Have her change it. I'm trying to think real hard here. So she stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the top of the cage, and then she plunged the screwdriver into his chest. Okay. I'll try saving here. But we found this at the grill of the machine. And how would you know that metal doesn't transport?
Objection!
No, that's not it. And plunged the screwdriver. But she wrote something sharp in her autopsy report. Maybe we'll go with that. With a sharp implement. And a screwdriver is not super sharp. I mean, I don't doubt that you could stab someone with it, but I wouldn't really call it sharp. Not like a knife is.
Objection!
No. Alright, that's not the kind of nitpicky we're trying to be. I'm trying to figure out what level of nitpicky we want to be. Like, what are we doing here? There's something off, I just don't know what it is, or how to get there. She stood over the cage, and then... But it's supposed to be dark in there, right? Hmm... Isn't it dark in there? Middle floor of the stage has been blown open by the explosion. She opened it. I don't know, it feels like a potentially awkward angle to stab someone in while he's in the cage.
Objection!
Nope, that's not it. Okay. It's not at odds with the evidence. Wow, what are we even getting at right now? I don't know. Plunged the screwdriver into his chest.
Objection!
It was the photo. I don't know how, but it was the photo. What a nasty feeling. That this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth. What on earth is the matter, Counsel? Have you lost your tongue? I don't know, man. I apologize, my lord. Dr. Sith, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation. Out with it, my learned friend. There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph, which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it. Yes, we have already considered it. That's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in this photograph would we see the alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement? Oh boy. That she stabbed him where he lay in the cage? Gonna say there should be more blood in the cage? I don't know. At the stab wound, sure.
Take that!
Look closely at the bloodstain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downward direction towards the man's feet. And why is that significant, counsel? If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Ah, except he wasn't stabbed then. He was stabbed when he was laying down. Of course no, that's not what happened. Exactly, my lord. Dr. Sith made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Harebrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage and out of sight. In the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop. And if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. Oh, okay, I see what they mean. Wow, I don't know if I would have picked up on that detail without blind guessing. Oh, maybe I would have eventually, just would have taken a while. Make you really think in this game. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downward from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Sith, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. I knew it, I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Sith, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer. That is the case. What is it, man? Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Sith's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony? Ah, shit. I'm just here for the ride with you guys. How she was coerced, the stabbing of the victim, or the autopsy report. Hey, 21 Snakes, how's it going? Yeah, we are almost done, and part of what you missed was just me stumbling around blind guessing things until I got it right. I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I still don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah, so he was stabbed while he was standing up, apparently, and I'm like, I don't know what this means. Okay. Alright, so how she was coerced. The stabbing of the victim. Now, I'm pretty sure he was stabbed. But probably, I don't know necessarily by her. Maybe he was, I don't know. Oh, the autopsy report. No. Maybe? The very end of the case is all you were worried about missing? Okay. I'm very excited. I feel like something big's gonna go down because it was just like they were trying to end the case early to like avoid giving us the whole truth, and we were like, no, we must have the whole truth. So I'm just like, okay, we're gonna get some big revelation here, and like it's gonna go nuts. I feel like how she was coerced is not true. I don't think it was just a simple matter of like she found the note and it was like, oh, well, I guess I better do this. I think she was more involved than she's letting on. Alright, let's try it. We saved. Dr. Sith, clearly you weren't really coerced by some letter at all. What? If you were, where's the note? It's nowhere to be seen. Huh. That's as may be. So why don't you present it to the court if the assertion vexes you? Obviously, I've already disposed of it, and I'm not vexed in the slightest. Counsel, need I remind you that it was you yourself who established the coercion? Okay, alright, not that. Alright. I'm afraid that little cry is insufficient for recompense for such a blunder. Yeah. Feeling vexed? Yes, we are. Very vexed. It's fine. Coroner's testimony was built on a tremendous lie. Alright, what? Stabbing of the victim or the autopsy report? I'm gonna go with, like, how he was stabbed. The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. Yes. As you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
It's impossible! The man was dead, remember? What if he wasn't? What if he survived the fall and he just had, like, you know, a little broken neck? That doesn't necessarily kill you. No, that is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Sith appeared. Oh. Yeah, the music's really good. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Mr. Odie Asman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain. Nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Sith. Putting off the ads. Order, order, order! Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice of Mr. Drebber's scream, the trial would end. before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder.
Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now, you're making all this up. As if I would do something like that. I assure you the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone.
Ha! Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean?
I thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive.
What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asman? Asman was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. There's no known connection to Dr. Sith there. I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched. True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Newly interred. A gunshot rang out. Bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest. Redacted for confidentiality. Death by hanging confirmed to the night of 17th of June. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story. No. When you questioned what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. What? What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once. It has to do with the professor case, is what I'm thinking. Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Wait, what? Something that seems strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. It's a particular object that explains why Dr. Sith would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. Scalpels? Screwdriver doesn't make any sense. Iron mask doesn't make a ton of sense, I think. Why would it be the iron mask? Scalpels is just such a far off answer that I really want to pick it. So I'm just like, why is that there? We have no scalpels. And also, we're saying that we saw it yesterday. We did see the scalpels when we were doing investigations, I think, when we were poking around her office. We were just like, the heck? Alright, let's try it. It's a scalpel, or rather, scalpels. Did you say scalpels? It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor.
You. Come on, out with it.
It was yesterday when we visited your laboratory. Look at this big, thick book here.
Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic—
Oh, those scalpels! The ones in the accounting book that were just like, well, that's fucking weird. Why would you order that many scalpels?
It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think.
Oh? What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but— well, one entry seems rather strange.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
$500 scalpels a month? At first I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asmon's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it's going would be extremely straightforward. 10 years ago, when Mr. Asmon was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drubber, he may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Sith's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade. Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean? He knew. I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So, in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely out of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asmon in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer who knew your darkest secret forever. You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years. Wrong voice. Whoops. As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb, the truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out.
And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Sith will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth about what happened.
10 years ago, you told the truth. You were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for. To sever the hold that fates had over you all these years. Do it, Drubber. Come on. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really. It's the addle-brained mocked scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drubber. I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. Made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it. You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim? Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Oh! Hold up. There we go. Gonna buy us more time. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asmon's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Asmon, did it? It is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. You love how they came up with an explanation for his white hair, but don't even acknowledge the robot hand. I know, right? It's just like, it's fine. He just has one. Don't worry about it. It's our steampunk fever dream. Just don't worry about it.
Condemned convict that you saw... The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. And your account of those events... If your account of those events was all true...
And obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Sith, to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Aspen turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he had happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye. About the coroner who handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan.
What a horrid tale!
He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him. For revenge. Have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer. He's kind of like, I don't blame him. You get rough. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially purely for selfish gain. And yet, carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis, but you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Aw, I'm sad. Lord Van Zeeks, what of Dr. Sith? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drever. Most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. But now, Professor Harebrain.
Oh, yes?
It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you had realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt.
This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. I mean me, this dedicated scientist? This devotee of natural philosophy? I've been selfish and self-centered and above all, a fool.
Professor.
I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research, misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I.
No, Professor, that's not true. What? Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way. Lord Van Zieg's being a true friend. And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. A man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices. Oh. Thank you, Barrack. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. It is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections? None for me, my lord.
Certainly not.
This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. All been proven methodically and rigorously.
What's that? He's done, is he? It's all over.
I don't know what to come of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty. Woo! It weirds me out every time that they set off fireworks inside of a building, inside the courthouse. Like, it's definitely made of wood because it's an old building. Well, actually, maybe not. Well, there's at least a lot of wood finishing in here, so it's like, why are we not on fire? Court is adjourned. It's over. That, some trial. 24th of October, 4:33 p.m. The Old Bailey Pendant's Antechamber. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it?
Oh, it is, it is. Congratulations, Professor Harebrain.
Mr. Naruhodo, Mrs. Sato, I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up. That you realize you were caught up in a bad situation. Ah! Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny. That's very kind, but I'm just a student, so not needed.
Don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough.
Oh dear. Oh, what can I do? Ah! Aha! How about this? This is a memento? The paper about my hypothesis is inside. Well, just as a memento then. Thank you.
I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now?
Oh my. Yes, what am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the Great Exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me.
Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea.
I can't allow that. Lord Van Zieks? Yes. Lord Van Zieks, what are you doing in here? Barrack! Sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey. He's so excited about this, though. You're one of the few true friends I have. Couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution. Or the defense. Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right? Does he respect us? Aw. I just hear that right?
I always knew that you had my best interest at heart. Don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on.
Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you.
What?
From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets.
But no! Hold on a minute, Barrick! What about the Great Exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around.
No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea. Are you trying to protect him from whoever is working in the shadows to, like, kill the people that you prosecute? Because that's spooky.
So sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Barrick.
Lord Van Zeeks? What's all this about? Necessary precaution.
Yes, I think I understand.
You do? Do you know something?
Well, I was told that when you met Lord Van Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing.
Yeah, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask.
The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well.
Yes, because he left the country out of reach of the assassins who kill all of Van Zeek's opponents.
Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor.
Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now.
Of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina are completely innocent.
But Gina's still somehow okay. True. Perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend.
Barrick!
Like the mustached Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once. Right. Yo, nice to see you care about your friend enough to ship him off back home immediately. Did your friend-shaped package get any say in it? No, and I understand why.
Goodness, was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zeeks?
He knew we'd get to the bottom of it. He trusts us. That's so cute. In court where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. I'm sure he doesn't quite know what's going on with the Reaper situation, either, and that's why he's just like, look, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to protect you, but just to be safe, I need you to get the fuck out of here, because, like, I don't want you to get murdered by, like, the mystery ghost that's haunting me. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being.
Ah, yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo?
Thank you so much for everything. Why are you going to the prison? It's because he doesn't trust you to stay in a hotel? Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you. Or is it because his acquittal is not formal yet? But why is it not formal yet? Why does it take a few days? I'm confused.
Best wishes, Professor Harebrain. Well, once the dust is settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now.
We need to figure out more about this Reaper business. Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes? I thought you'd gone too. Are we actually friends now? Are we friends? We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? Sure. You want to talk with me? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Okay. Alright. Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. The Enigma, Barrick Van Zeeks? What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes, then. Wait, is it the assistant? Are we gonna unmask your assistant? Are we gonna see that it's actually Cosmo? 24th of October, 4:58 p.m. We're living 3 days in the future. The Old Bailey courtroom. Oh, I see we left the waxwork in here. That's not weird at all. So, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence can be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese comes from. Yes, actually. Why? Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now, I think differently. You clearly know our ways, so I would guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please? Professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest.
He took your brother's life.
Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zeeks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens. He was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As a part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan.
Oh, if it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Of course. I remember Dr. Mikotoba well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese.
So, you've actually met my father?
He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very great impression upon me. 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. In the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. So sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. But he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. I finally found out the killer's identity. The reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. Oh, sorry. The reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. In plain sight? Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? No. Please tell me more. It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was being forged, I think? Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. Ah, okay. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. Was he Japanese? Was he one of the friends that you had made from the exchange students? The British public had known the identity of the killer. Not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war. What? A war between Britain and Japan?
But that would mean... Oh my! You mean to say the professor was...
Oh my god, he has
When
the
the trial
key.
reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time. Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
Oh my god.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face.
Is it someone you know?
I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Oh! Cosmo, getting your memory back? Memory coming back?
Father.
What? Father?
It's his dad? Bro, what the fuck?
Kazuma!
I mean, we knew that, but like, it's his dad?
My best friend, Kazuma Asogi.
Looks good in that outfit, though.
After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me,
I have your sword, by the way.
Ryunosuke. Hello again.
It is a good cutscene.
My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
Okay, but can we... When do we get the explanation of why they faked his death?
I owe you thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh, your katana?
Oh.
You want it back?
Karuma, the great blade of the Asogi clan, passed down through the generations.
What if that blade was used to kill people? That'd be weird feels.
When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
I've made it. At last. Father.
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it, but I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Yeah, that's some deep shit. How did that happen? You gonna destroy the waxwork? I don't think Madame Tussauds is gonna be very happy. Okay. I mean, she can fix them, but like, she'll be a little unhappy.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about.
I'm sure we do.
But now is not the time.
Oh, okay. When is the time then?
I'll be seeing you.
Dude, what the fuck?
That's all Kazuma said.
How's...
Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
Where's Van Zeeks and what does he have anything to say about this revelation? So he's the living afterimage of the man who took my brother's life, is he? That's kind of a rude thing to call someone who just left, right? Yes, Kazuma Sogi, my best friend. 3 months ago when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there. Some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zeek's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia, too. The man was apprehended, even executed. His legacy just won't die. Sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked. That's a lot to sink in. Are you okay?
Years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him.
Poor Susato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her, too. She's never talked about this with me before, though.
It took time to adjust to having father around. Just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son. Boy, 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, that he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. I'm sure you've worked out. That young man's name was Kazuma Sogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time.
Yeah, he did just kind of get his memories back and was like, I got a dip. And we're just like, I'm too much in shock to say or do anything about this situation.
As if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
You know, the return of the great departed soul, I was not expecting. That was not what I expected. The twisted karma and his last bow. That's gonna be fun. Wow, that was, dang, that was a lot that happened right there. I'm glad, okay, so I thought Drebber was gonna be like the murderer. He was the mastermind. We did get him on that, but then, like, you know, his plan didn't entirely work. And then Sith was more involved than I thought. Well, maybe not more, but like in a different way. Twisted Karma and his last bow. Is this one also very exciting? It sounds like it is. We're definitely not starting this week, though. It's already getting late. That is quite the name. Yeah, I'm like, what does that mean? Gonna be some stuff happening there. But yeah, okay, so Sith is a cold-blooded murderer. Fun. We understand what happened with the professor now and like why that was such a big deal. But why did she make that mistake? Or was it an intentional mistake to say that he was dead when he wasn't? Or was that part of the fact that it would have been an international incident and they weren't intending to kill him? They were just going to kill him and then ship him off back to Japan to be dealt with? Possible. But then he got shot. And who shot him? We still don't know who shot him. I still have questions, but it seems like we're getting into the main story now. And Van Seeks is now a friend. He was like, I trust you to defend my bestie. I'm like, he respects us. What a change. What a change. Okay, we're gonna let that sit in. We're gonna let all that sink in. And for now, we shall... Let me see if any friends are on. I guess Neo Neko's on. Else on as well. Alright, we might as well go raid Neo Neko. We should spread the love among friends. But that's gonna do it for us for this week. We will start the next one. Yeah, the 28th. That should be fine. Start the next case next week. Alright, for now. Hey, thanks all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. That case went in directions I wasn't expecting. That's super fun. But yeah. Looking forward to how this develops and like what's gonna happen with everything. So. Thanks all for watching. If you guys enjoyed the stream, thanks 21 Snakes for stopping by. I appreciate it. Vivian Delta as well. Thank you for the raid earlier. Everyone else, all lurkers, chatters, future VoD watchers, I appreciate you all. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend as well. If I don't catch you guys tomorrow for raid night, or any of the other things we do throughout the week, we'll pick up on Ace Attorney next weekend around the same time. And yeah, we'll see where this takes us. We got some clarification on what happened in the past, international incidents, but we don't quite know what's going around right now. There's a lot of mystery still, that unanswered questions, so we'll see what happens. For now, have a good night, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys next week for more Ace Attorney. Bye bye.